At 88, Jane Fonda finally tells the truth about John Wayne. Jane Fonda was born Jane Seymour Fonda on December 21, 1937, in New York City. Jane Seymour Fonda was destined for public attention as the daughter of legendary actor Henry Fonda. Yet her journey would be anything but a simple extension of her father's fame. Instead, Jane Fonda carved out a singular identity, marked by extraordinary professional achievement, fearless political engagement, and a lifelong willingness to challenge both society and herself. Fonda's early life was shaped by privilege, discipline, and emotional turbulence. Raised in a family defined by artistic excellence and emotional reserve, she struggled with feelings of inadequacy and isolation, particularly following the tragic suicide of her mother, Frances Ford Seymour, when Jane was just 12 years old. This profound loss left a lasting emotional imprint, fueling a lifelong search for meaning, self-worth, and purpose. Educated at elite institutions, including Vassar College, Fonda initially had little intention of becoming an actress. However, after moving to Paris and later studying under legendary acting teacher Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio, she discovered a passion for performance that would soon define her career. Jane Fonda made her film debut in the early 1960s, quickly gaining attention for her intelligence, beauty, and charisma. While early roles often cast her as a glamorous ingenue, she gradually pushed against these limitations, seeking more substantive and challenging material. Her breakthrough came with Barbarella, 1968, a cult science fiction film that made her a global sex symbol, though Fonda herself later reflected on the experience as both empowering and confining. Rather than allowing Hollywood to define her, she used her growing fame as leverage to pursue more meaningful work. The 1970s marked the most critically acclaimed period of Jane Fonda's acting career. She delivered a series of powerful, transformative performances that firmly established her as one of the finest actresses of her generation. Her role as a weary, emotionally scarred prostitute in Clute, 1971, earned her the first of 2 Academy Awards, revealing a depth and vulnerability that silenced any remaining doubts about her talent. She followed this with unforgettable performances in Coming Home, 1978, portraying the emotional awakening of a military wife, and The China Syndrome, 1979, a tense political thriller that reflected her growing commitment to social issues. These films not only showcased her artistic range, but also mirrored her evolving political consciousness. Parallel to her acting career, Jane Fonda emerged as one of the most outspoken and controversial political activists of her time. Deeply opposed to the Vietnam War, she became a prominent figure in the anti-war movement, using her celebrity to amplify dissent. Her 1972 visit to North Vietnam, widely criticized and misunderstood, earned her the enduring nickname Hanoi Jane, a label that followed her for decades. Fonda later expressed regret for certain aspects of that trip, while continuing to defend her right to protest unjust wars. Her activism, though polarizing, demonstrated a rare willingness to risk personal and professional consequences in pursuit of her convictions. In the 1980s, Jane Fonda once again reinvented herself, this time transforming popular culture through fitness. Jane Fonda's Workout, released in 1982, became the best-selling VHS of its time and ignited a global fitness revolution. What could have been a superficial celebrity venture instead became a cultural phenomenon that empowered millions, particularly women, to take control of their physical health. The success of her workout empire brought her immense financial independence, which she later used to fund political causes, film projects, and philanthropic efforts. After stepping away from acting in the early 1990s, Jane Fonda returned to the screen in the 2000s with renewed confidence and clarity. Her later roles, ranging from comedy to drama, revealed an actress unafraid of aging or reinvention. Projects like Grace and Frankie introduced her to a new generation of fans, proving that relevance has no expiration date. In her later years, she has continued her activism with undiminished energy, most notably through her outspoken advocacy for climate action, even risking arrest during protests in Washington, D.C. After stepping away from the spotlight for more than a decade, she made a much-anticipated and triumphant return to acting in 2005, delighting audiences when she came out of retirement to star in the romantic comedy Monster-in-Law. The film not only reintroduced her to a new generation of moviegoers, but also proved that her charm, wit, and commanding screen presence remained as powerful as ever. Throughout the 2000s and into the following decade, she proved that her talent was not confined to any single era, continuing to reinvent herself with a steady stream of memorable performances. Rather than slowing down, she embraced a wide range of roles that highlighted her depth, maturity, and enduring screen presence. In Georgia Rule, 2007, she delivered a sharp and uncompromising performance, reminding audiences that she could still command attention with emotional intensity and fearless honesty. She followed this with Peace, Love, and Misunderstanding, 2011, a film that allowed her to blend warmth, humor, and wisdom, capturing the spirit of a free-spirited matriarch whose ideals clashed with those of the younger generation. Her later film appearances continued to showcase her versatility. In The Butler, 2013, she became part of a sweeping historical drama that traced decades of American political and social change, lending her gravitas to a story rooted in real-world events. The following year, This Is Where I Leave You, 2014, saw her return to a more comedic and emotionally layered role, balancing sharp wit with moments of vulnerability in a story about family, loss, and reconciliation. At the same time, she made a notable return to television. From 2012 to 2014, she appeared in a recurring role on HBO's acclaimed drama The Newsroom, where her performance added authority and complexity to the series' exploration of media, politics, and journalistic integrity. Her presence on the show was a reminder that she could effortlessly transition between film and television, bringing the same level of credibility and nuance to both mediums. In 2017, she captivated audiences once again by reuniting with Robert Redford in the Netflix film Our Souls at Night. The quiet, tender romance was widely praised for its emotional restraint and authenticity, offering a moving portrayal of companionship and love later in life. Their on-screen chemistry, decades after their earlier collaborations, felt natural and deeply affecting, resonating with viewers around the world. The following year, she reached a new generation of fans with the hit romantic comedy Book Club, 2018. The film became a surprise success, celebrating friendship, self-discovery, and romance among older women, and further cemented her status as a cultural icon who refused to be defined by age. With each project, she continued to challenge expectations, proving that passion, relevance, and star power do not fade with time, but can, in fact, grow stronger. Jane Fonda's romantic life has unfolded in chapters as dramatic and transformative as the roles she has played on screen. Her first marriage began in 1965 when she wed the provocative French filmmaker Roger Vadim, a man who helped shape her early public image as a bold, modern sex symbol. Their union drew intense media attention, blending Hollywood glamour with European sophistication. Although the marriage ultimately ended in divorce, it produced one lasting bond: their daughter, who became a central and deeply cherished part of Fonda's life. In 1973, Fonda entered a very different phase when she married political activist and author Tom Hayden. This relationship reflected a turning point in her identity as she became increasingly engaged with social justice, political causes, and activism. Together, they had a son, and for years they were seen as one of the most intellectually and politically engaged couples of their era. Yet despite their shared ideals and ambitions, the marriage eventually came to an end, marking another period of emotional reinvention for Fonda. Her third marriage, to media mogul Ted Turner in 1991, placed her at the intersection of Hollywood and global business power. As the wife of the cable television tycoon and founder of CNN, Fonda stepped into a world defined by vast influence and ambition. Though the marriage lasted a decade, it too concluded in divorce in 2001, reinforcing a recurring theme in her life: the courage to move forward when a chapter no longer served her personal growth. In later years, Fonda found companionship and romance with record producer Richard Perry. a relationship that reflected a calmer, more reflective stage of her life. Rather than defining herself by marital status, she embraced independence, self-awareness, and emotional honesty. Through love, loss, and reinvention, Jane Fonda's relationships tell the story of a woman unafraid to evolve, someone who has consistently chosen authenticity over convention and growth over comfort. At 88 years old, Jane Fonda no longer feels any need to soften her words or retreat from the convictions that have defined her life. Time, reflection, and survival have given her a rare clarity, and when she speaks about John Wayne today, it is not with bitterness, but with unflinching honesty. For decades, their clash has been reduced to headlines and sound bites, but Fonda insists the deeper truth was always about values, power, and the myths America told itself. Fonda has often said that her conflict with Wayne was never personal in the way people imagined. "I didn't hate John Wayne as a man," she explains. "I hated what he represented, and I hated how many people confused that representation with truth." To Fonda, Wayne was not just a movie star, he was a symbol, an embodiment of a rigid